Hi, this is Leanne with Markigy. Today I'm joined with Sarah Renner, and she is pure delight, simply amazing. I'm going to let her tell you about her background so that you can understand where we're coming from for this conversation. Sarah, tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Leanne, and I'm happy to be here and talk with you all. I'm Sarah Renner. I'm a VP of Marketing Strategy and Analytics at MarketBridge. I have over 20 years, gosh, it's a little scary to say that out loud, but over 20 years of experience in lead gen, marketing measurement, and really thinking about how we go to market and what actually matters in the market.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of that experience really showed you what works and what doesn't work. And
that's for sure.
That's part of why we're here is because you attach numbers to things. So let's just kick it off. What is the hill you're willing to die on? What is that soapbox? Tell us what the thing is that you're like, look, I know that we're doing it wrong if we're not doing it like this. What is it?
It's around brand marketing and really thinking about that emotionally resonant marketing. And I know that's not a new take. I'm not the first to say this. Bananfield wrote the long and the short of it in 2013, but it's been replicated over and over. Brand wins out over performance over the long haul. And yet most companies aren't doing it. And I chalk it all up to they don't have the strategic patience to actually let it pay off.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of those things that's a hot take that shouldn't be a hot take.
I agree. But it's still, I feel like I'm constantly talking to clients that, and you'll hear about this later. I'm sure I can jump into a story when you're ready. They get caught in this cycle of, and part of this is just the reality, quarterly earnings reports. They need to hit the goal, whether that's you're a publicly traded company or you're owned by PE. You have to hit your quarterly goal. You're falling behind. And suddenly the first thing that's cut is brand. And let's move all of our money to lower funnel, see if we can juice the numbers to hit the quarterly goal, to generate enough leads for sales reps, focus on paid search or whatever it is, or even run a discount and promotion. And then you get caught in the cycle of never building that brand up that would really drive sort of that long-term organic growth.
Yeah. And I had someone that I worked for say it like this, and I think this really shows like a difference in perspective, is that to her, she thought that our ads that were with like a direct call to action of a conversion, she felt like those were also doing brand at the same time. And while she's not wrong, because my definition of brand is the manifestation of every single time a customer interacts with the brand promise of the company, of the organization. So whatever the value promise is, every single time a customer interacts with that, it's the manifestation of it. Whether that's sales and marketing or operations or canceling or buying or any of it. But to your point is that, it is the first thing that gets cut.
Yeah, well, and I think that there are two parts to that. I completely agree that when a customer is interacting with your company, they're not thinking about, I'm interacting with a lower funnel ad, or I'm interacting with the sales team versus the marketing team. Like they're not considering any of that. But I would say brand, the way I would define brand is that sort of, again, emotionally resonant, like what are the brand values, to your point, the brand promise. And a lot of performance ads aren't really focused on the brand promise. They're maybe more feature focused, promotions, sales, and that doesn't, I would say, take away from the brand necessarily, but it's not building you up in the mind, that affinity that I really think about when I think about brand, of driving that affinity with a customer, that they recognize that your company is who they want to do business with. And that changes depending on the purchase that you're making. Your affinity to a gum company is very different than your affinity to maybe a car company or, other things that you're doing business with. But a lot of us identify and project out into the world with the companies that we're working with. And I think brand can really differentiate in that matter, but most companies aren't doing it right.
I agree. As you were talking, I was thinking about, like, it's kind of like the difference in levels of character depth on a TV
Mhm.
show. Are you the main character or are you an extra that's just kind of like walking around? Like, are you one of the zombie extras in the apocalypse movies? Or are you the hero that saves the day? Like, how much dimension and depth
Yeah.
does the character of the organization actually hold for the consumer, and how memorable is it? I mean, that's what we're hoping for, right?
That's a great analogy. And I think, the characters that you're to extend on that, the characters that you're telling your friends about that you remember from different TV shows aren't generally the side zombie character that has no depth. It's somebody that has depth, and it might still be a side character that is very well defined, but they're not going and talking about that extra they saw walk by on the screen.
They would have to do something extraordinary.
Yes.
And that's where it comes. Is that there has to be some sort of moment of delight and depth.
Delight is a great way to put it. And I think a lot of us fail on the delight factor, and consistently.
Yeah. So what is, I know I came out with like the zombie apocalypse thing. You're welcome. But what's like a real business case example that like kind of hit this home for you?
Yeah. So we had a client, well, I'll say we've had a couple of clients, but I'm thinking of one in particular that got caught in that trap I mentioned. They had to hit their quarterly earnings. They're selling to consumers. They're in tech. They had like a really great bump, I would say, during COVID. Not anything that they planned for, just given the nature of COVID, they ended up getting a really nice bump, and they were trying to pull that forward. But what they ended up doing, because they were trying to capture all of this, I would say, pent up demand, they moved very low funnel, and everything was just focused on sales and discounts and, everything that they can do to try to pull in as many folks as possible to keep growing. What ended up happening, and part of why they brought us in, is they stopped growing because they had stopped all of their brand building. They hadn't been thinking about what about our product actually appeals to customers. It was very much $100 off, $50 off. Like, let's see who we can get in the door doing discount deals. Yeah. And we see this with a lot of clients, that once you start down that track and pull the money from brand, it's very hard to make the case, oh, hey, we're going to miss our quarterly numbers because we need to build for next year. That is a very hard case to make, but most companies don't have the strategic patience to wait until next year. And I think that that's really hampering their long-term growth. So what we ended up doing with this client, we were doing marketing mix modeling for them. We could see that their upper funnel activities that they were doing at very small levels was having a massive impact, just not enough of it. So we ran an A/B test and tested into pulling back money from some of their lower funnel while raising it on their upper funnel. So in this instance, we pulled back on Google paid search, and we're spending more on connected TV and online video to drive that awareness and some more of that brand messaging, using some really great kind of brand value focused creative. And even in a short-term test, when usually brand doesn't work, it blew it out of the water. It showed that we weren't losing anything from turning off Google, and that this was actually driving more impact in the short term. And usually the opposite happens. When most companies run a brand test, they're like, oh, let's test it in 8 weeks, and nothing happens. They don't see a thing in sales. And then the story that's told internally is brand doesn't work. And I think that does a disservice, because brand is long-term. But again, we don't have that long-term patience.
Yeah. And it really depends on the product and the life cycle. And I think that's one of the first things that I do when I enter a company that's maybe starting to build out metrics is I ask, what's the buying life cycle? Mm-hmm. How do you know that that's how long it takes your average consumer to convert all the way? Because I think that is one of the top things that we are impatient about. And I think that trickle down impatience is what annihilates the branding budget, because there's this misconception that like, we did ad today, we get money now. No, it's not. It's not how it works.
No,
it would be nice. Maybe if you were gum, but like still though.
Well, and I think part of the problem and why you get into this cycle is when you discount, you're pulling forward some of that demand. And so it's not necessarily that you're getting net new people that weren't considering buying your product. You're just maybe shortening their cycle and making it sort of manufacturing a shorter sales cycle that only works for so long if you're not still building up that demand.
Well, and one way to think about it, like this is a good thought exercise, is were those people going to convert anyways, and now you just lost however much you discounted?
Yes.
Like, I think that's truly the biggest like piece that they want to skip is like, well, you could have got them for 100% in like an extra week, but you needed them today, so you got them for 80%.
Or what we see in some industries, and I'll say healthcare is one of these that become more commoditized. You're getting people that are always going to search for the deal, and you're not getting people that are ever going to be loyal to your company. And so, sure, you're getting them at a discount, and maybe in the short term, you're juicing your numbers. But as soon as your competitor runs a discount, they're running over there. And so they're not the people that are going to be evangelists for your company that are going to go out and say how great it is and tell their friends that they should be using you. They're going to be the people that's like, okay, I'm mad. I want $100 off this time, or I'm coming up for renewal, or I need this product again. Where can I get the best deal? I'll just go to Amazon.
Yeah. Really though. Like I know that there's one service that I refuse to pay full price for, because no matter what, I get an offer in the mail after I quit that now offers it for $4 a month instead of $60. So like, why in the world would I pay $60?
It's the cable model. A lot of newspapers are doing this now. And it's just like, it's this really bad cycle. You're training your customers to be disloyal, to wait for that discount if you are able to give them any loyalty at all.
Yeah. And I think that, having worked in a very rate sensitive environment in banking, one of the things that is possible, and I would still encourage people if they are insistent on doing the discounting, is to then make sure that the customer experience is so exceptional that you have transitioned out of the commodity space into a loyalty space.
Yeah.
I think there's ways to do that. To
your point earlier, thinking about brand holistically, all of that is part of the brand, that brand experience. And I think my second soapbox would be something along the lines of, not extending that into your current customers of like, how are you continuing to live your brand values, reinstill that, delight them after they've become your customers so that you build that loyalty.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the whole, even your ex-customers feel your brand. Sorry. Ooh, zombies are back. Okay. So you talked about how you were able to measure it doing A and B tests. What are some caveats? What are what's some nuance that might get missed?
I mean, so I don't want anyone to go out there and be like, I'm going to pitch to my CFO that we're going to move all of our money up funnel immediately. Like you do have to test into this, and you do need some indicators. And I would say where most folks fall down, it's not that they're not investing, or it's not that they shouldn't invest in brand. It's that they don't think far enough in advance of how they're going to measure the impact of what they're doing. They think, depending on the sales cycles, to your point of, they maybe even don't even know how long their customer sales cycle is, planning out, when do we anticipate this impact? How are we going to measure it? And not just focusing on necessarily sales, depending on that customer sales cycle. If it's too long, you might not see that impact for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. How are you thinking about the success of a brand campaign with other metrics? There are other things that are correlated with sales that are early indicators. How are we thinking about those and measuring it holistically? And I think, again, it comes down to planning and that strategic patience, and also not just turning off the brand as soon as you hit the end of the campaign saying it didn't work because we didn't see a ton of new sales.
I mean, yeah, there's also like that like, what is your budget for experimentation? Do you have a budget for experimentation? Like, did you think about that?
Well, and I'd say a lot of companies, when they have a budget for experimentation, maybe it's 10% of the marketing budget. Like, there's also a certain threshold where if you're only testing brand at a certain level, it's not going to be enough to have an impact. In which case I would say then just don't bother, right? Like, if you're not going to spend a couple $100,000 probably for a lot of brands, if you're big, if you're an enterprise, if you're smaller, maybe it's less. It takes a long time. And there are other ways that you can drive your brand that aren't just in a paid brand campaign. And, you know, given how much we all experience, how much is pushed out to us as consumers all the time, breaking through is really hard. And increasingly, it's that personal touch. So for smaller companies, that could be that personal touch from sales reps or personalities or whatever it is that make you feel that affinity. But the point is that you need to have that affinity and build that over time. It's not a short-term game.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. And that's part of why it lately, you know, I think in this current environment that like partnerships are just partnerships and community, social partnerships and community are the top three ways I think to break through the noise, regardless of size of the company. But they're all relationship plays. And to your point about affinity is that it's really relationships. Like how do you build that one-to-many, one-to-one with someone where they're willing to be like, yeah, my money should go this way.
And that still takes time, right? Like, if you think about just your relationship with anybody, that's not a flick of a switch. We said hi and now we're best friends. Like, that takes time to build. And I think companies need to think about their brand in a similar way. It's not a one and done. Like, we can't just have one conversation and never speak again and consider ourselves friends. But similarly, it's not something that you can invest a lot of money in once. You've got to build that over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So another thing that, to your point is that if you underinvest, your experiment is going to be fundamentally flawed, because that's how, you know, it works. Even though I personally am still questioning whether or not we call it a funnel. But the point is that if there's the masses on the top layer, in order to get the most impressions, the most like exposure, that costs more to get the eyeballs, then, you know, it just requires more budget than as you filter down, because it's just less specific.
Yeah, but I'd add, like, I think some companies fall down because they think their brand needs to be everything to everyone, as opposed to really keying in on, our brand is for this type of person. This will resonate with our brand values will resonate with them, and really tightening that up. And then keep continuing that through. And again, I agree with you. The funnel is broken in a lot of ways, but all the different touch points. And that's not to say that it has to be the exact same message every single time and you're just a robot repeating it. But if it's speaking to that brand value across channels, across interactions, with everything, that builds up. The problem is that it's everybody to every person, or it's constantly changing because, we need to reach this segment here and this segment's over here and it's going to be different. And then it just is a big mess and it's hard to tell what the brand stands for anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I've called that Frankenstein marketing.
Very much so.
There's like a weird theme today. I'm sorry. It's very Halloween. It's only spring.
Sure.
But, because it's so many different things stitched together, and it really just, it turns into like one thing, but does it?
Well, and I think strategic patience in my mind speaks to both of those. It's that buildup and investment over time from a monetary and attention perspective, but it's also the messaging that needs to be consistent over time. I've seen brands that we've worked with that it feels like every campaign is reinvention. We're reinventing the wheel, brand new values. We're speaking to a different person. And then they're surprised when that doesn't work, that audience that they're targeting doesn't come in a 12-week or 16-week campaign. And it's like, well, you're totally shifting gears. It's again, that you've got to build up that relationship, and it's not flipping the switch.
No. Another thing, like to your point, that I've seen, and I just kind of want maybe a little bit of an echo chamber here, but that's okay, is that when your organization pivots so frequently, you cannot have apples to apples in your metrics.
Oh, gosh. Yes. Preaching to the choir here. Well, and I think also if you're pivoting that much, you need to be thinking about your measurement strategy evolving as well. And most of the time they don't. They want that year over year approach of looking at the exact same things. And it's like, well, you're not moving the same metrics with this message or these channels or this effort.
Or even month after month. If month one, you offer a suite of X, Y, and Z, and month 4, you change your entire suite of offerings, you cannot compare the LTV or, the CPL or any of it.
Any of it, yeah.
It's no longer just different.
Yes.
So, if you want to be doomed to failure, please, by all means, do what you want to do. But maybe not that.
Well, I mean, I'm just coming up with all the different soapboxes. Marketing and analytics aren't as tightly aligned often as they should be, in that the analytics function needs to be a partner as you're planning the campaign to think about how we're going to measure it. So, and that goes to the business strategy too. Like analytics needs to be at the table to think about how we're going to measure this. And hopefully we're not changing things too much, but like the measurement strategy will need to evolve as business strategy evolves. And often it's like, oh, this campaign's going to launch. Let's let analytics know that this campaign's going to launch, as opposed to identifying what are the KPIs, like what are the pivot points where this isn't working and we should reevaluate versus things are on track, or when do we raise our hand and say, oh, we're not going to hit this quarter because all the indicators say that we're falling behind.
Yeah. And then how do you mitigate that?
Right. And having backup plans. And, we all are doing so much. Everybody's running at the speed of light. But I think in a lot of times, because we're trying to do so much, the strategic patience of planning, from a planning perspective of like, what are the contingencies? How are we thinking about this holistically? And yes, you should still be agile and change if things aren't working. But I don't think we often we're planning that everything's going to work perfectly and nothing ever does, as opposed to thinking about those pivot points of how are we measuring this? What are the indicators that things aren't going right? And then what are we going to do if that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's just, if there's a saying that I especially love, and I repeat it to myself just in daily life, is you have to go slow to go fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that planning is going slow to go fast. And you do have to have, to your point, the strategic patience to sit there and do the exercise of scoping it out and planning it and the contingencies, everything that you mentioned. That is a beautiful body of work. Maybe color code it. I don't know. Just up to you. But you're right. And so, is there, I know that I've kind of pulled a couple of soapboxes out of you, which is fine. I love it. If we had to kind of like talk about like strategic patience as like the big one, and all the rest of them are like soapboxes. So now we have like a little family of wonderful points that are absolutely right. Who is it for and who's it not for? Like, is there a situation where you're like, actually, you have to move like way faster than what I'm saying? Or is this kind of like for everybody, or like?
So I guess I think strategic patience in my mind is for everyone. It's just having the judgment to know what are the things you need to be patient about versus where are the things that you move fast. I think you need to be patient about the big things, the business objectives, the, brand values, the kind of key messages. But then you can be fast on evolving what's working, testing things, thinking about email campaigns. Like there are a lot of ways. I'll use, from the Artemis 2 Nutella floating around in space and how that became a viral moment, like capitalizing on those types of organic moments. You have to be fast. You can't take that strategic patience and wait. So it's figuring out the judgment and thinking about what are the things that we can plan, what are the things that we can't plan, and how can we use strategic patience around brand, around business objectives, around measurement as a North Star while still moving fast enough. Because again, everybody's moving so fast. Everybody's on this treadmill of there's so much to do. There are so many things happening, so much data that we could be analyzing. You can't be patient and sit back and be slow on everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point, is that it's in order to move fast on something like the Nutella thing, you have to have that umbrella to work underneath. If you don't have that umbrella, then you can't really capitalize on it in any meaningful way. It's just sloppy and loose, and you've made things worse.
Right. Or you have a brand misstep that you say something that's completely not aligned and people freak out about it.
Yeah. You can always make it worse.
Yes.
But I think that's a really good point. It's not necessarily whether or not you have strategic patience. It's just how is that executed in the day-to-day and like channel and tactics.
And I think also recognizing there are certain industries that maybe move slower. You mentioned your background in banking, like financial services often moves slower in a lot of ways than other industries because they're highly regulated. There's a lot of scrutiny. Obviously, nobody wants to mess with financial data. I think there are ways to still define up front, like what does good enough look like? What are our brand values? Like what are those frameworks to think about things so that you can move fast within guidelines, within constraints, within reason that compliance is okay with.
Yes, we love you, compliance. You are our friends. We want to make you pleased. And the reason why compliance exists is for good reason. So it's not just like that they're holding back marketing and making them slow. It's that they're there to protect everybody, the consumer, the business, everybody, the shareholders, all of it. Everybody needs to follow the rules for good reason, because the rules exist because they do. And so there's still ways to be agile or responsive. Responsive is different than reactive.
Yes.
But you can be responsive with putting out new campaigns, or, having, once again, if you have the umbrella, then, when something like bank failure happens, you have your umbrella of values, your suite of offerings, what you're known for, and you can put out an ad that is not totally net new, but reinforces the brand promise.
Right, exactly. And capitalizes on that moment. So moving fast, even though it's resonant with your brand values.
Yeah, exactly. There's ways to do it right. But it's really hard to do right if you have no idea what you're doing. So that comes from that strategic vision. So, okay. Let's kind of shift gears a little bit. Where is the future of marketing going? Where do you think it should go? Do you think they're the same thing?
Well, so we touched on this a little bit. I do think, and it's already there very much so on the B2B side. I think it's getting there increasingly on the B2C side around relationships and sort of those personal, whether it's in-person events or experiences. A lot of folks are moving more analog and are just totally tuning out from so much. And I think in some ways we as marketers haven't adjusted to that yet and are still trying to find our footing. I'll say brand does have a big role to play here in how we kind of pull back, but bring that emotional resonance to make sure we're still there. It doesn't mean more things. It means the right resonant things. But I think most of us aren't doing it well right now. And I think a lot of the push for AI creative and different, AI generated creative in different sizes and different modes, and that will appeal to all the different audiences and all your different segments, is compounding something that we've all been feeling, that there's just too much now. And I think that there needs to be a pullback.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you're right, that the best way to combat AI slop is real people. And, it's funny because sometimes I forget, like I joke about being in LA, but I forget that LA is one of those major metros where you do see trends start, which is, and then it trickles inward. And some trends just are never culturally aligned with certain regions. And that's okay. They have their own things that they that really reflect their populations in a meaningful way. But I don't think anyone feels warm and fuzzy about being like the target of AI slop.
No.
I just don't think that. I don't think anyone in the South feels like that. I don't think anyone in the North feels like that. East, West, Southwest. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, I just saw a research report, and I don't remember off the top of my head from whom this week, that was like, once people knew it was AI, they were like way less interested, and they thought worse of the brand because it was AI. And so I do think that there needs to be a pullback, and we talk a lot at Market Bridge about quality and like returning to quality in go-to-market. So rather than more things, more channels, more messages, thinking about, like, again, that sort of brand value, what resonates with the audience, and how do you orchestrate that so that it happens at the right time. I think we're all craving more quality because it's all so much. It's too much.
It's too much, and there's just so much noise, and there's so many. I'm gonna not have us start a whole new podcast episode, but I would love. Well, you and I will continue the conversation.
Yes.
But I'll say this, is that I think that the tone and narrative of current media has not made people feel anything except for more lonely. And anything that we can do with our marketing to be like, hey, real humans still exists. Real human still exists and wants to interact with real human. I think that there is that baseline of how our work can exist. Because I'm not going to be like, oh, marketing isn't like changing lives. Some of it might be, actually, but for the most part, like, that's a little generous. But we should always be, building that human connection.
I think we've gotten too far away from thinking about the actual people that we're targeting, because everybody's a data point. We have a lot of data about them. We think that we know them, and we don't actually know them.
That is my career-long soapbox, is that people are not numbers. They are people.
Yeah. And it's, targeting me is different than targeting you. And yet we treat us both the same, and a lot of times, and we group us together with another, 100,000, maybe 1 million people, and say that we're a segment. And it's like, well, are we all going to react the same way to that? We're probably not going to react the same way to all the different brand values. There are probably some that are more resonant with me than are with you and everyone else in that group.
Yeah, that's just how it goes. I love the meme where it shows Ozzy Osbourne versus the Prince, and they're the same age. It's the same age, different vibe.
Yes,
different,
very different vibes.
And so, yeah, I think I'm really glad that you brought this up, and I really want people to take that to heart, is that at the end of the day, it is people to people.
Those relationships matter. And if we pull out to the, 10,000 foot view, sure. Do I think I have a relationship with Coke because I like to have an occasional Diet Coke? No, I don't. But, there is something about Diet Coke that resonates with me, that I see a lot of other people similar to me have Diet Coke. When they talk about their Diet Cokes, it resonates with me. Like, that does permeate. And so I think thinking more about those relationships is really key to driving that affinity and that long-term loyalty.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All right, last question. I know that I always warn people about this. I'm like, you're gonna have changed your mind. What is a question someone should ask you, but they don't? And then just the big explanation all over again is that sometimes people are asking about Pinterest and they really need to talk about what their content strategy is before they talk about distribution. Or if there's something about you as a person that you're like, I wish people would know this about me so they could see how that impacted how good I am at what I do.
So I guess the question that I wish more people were asking me, but I need a little bit of information that I would then interview them to try to figure out is, what should I be measuring based on my goal? I think a lot of folks, and we touched on this a little bit, of like, they are looking at the same KPIs year over year. And, a lot of folks are focused on platform metrics, or thinking about, let's say, cost per acquisition year on year, without taking into account maybe all the things that changed over that year, or segmenting that out and saying, well, yes, okay, your cost per acquisition is this, but you're focused on discounting and you've acquired all these people that aren't actually going to stay. And so therefore your LTV is going down. Like, there are a lot of things that I think folks aren't thinking holistically about measurement. And particularly with how fast things are going, I think a lot of organizations need to revisit the framework for how they're thinking about measurement more holistically to their business goals.
Yeah.
Just a little thing.
I mean, just casual conversation.
Sure.
But I was having flashbacks of companies that are just too brutalistic about certain metrics, and they put like this one is the North Star, and yeah, you should have like a North Star, but
what is the context around that?
Yeah.
What is that story it's telling? Right.
Yeah. At what cost, like, it's just, God, it was so bad. My eyes twitching.
Really bad flashbacks.
Not everybody thinks through things. If you are going after, to your point, CPA, like, what is the churn rate? What is the, like, at least you're doing CPA, like cost per acquisition, and they've been acquired. But like, worse would be like cost per lead. Yeah, our cost per lead went down to like 1 cent. Okay, nobody's is, but like 1 cent. Cool. We got the cheapest leads. What happened to them?
Right. Are they converting? Right. I think so many folks are focused on one metric or maybe 4 metrics and aren't really digging into the full story the data is telling you. And we have so much data. I understand it's overwhelming to try to figure out like what are the right data points, but that should be revisited on some cadence, I would argue, every year or two, thinking about, let's look holistically at what our business has done, think about where we're trying to go, and our metrics aligned to where the future is headed.
Yeah. And that's I think relative to size. I think the smaller you are, the faster you need to be reviewing that.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're tiny, you need to be doing that every quarter.
Yes.
If you're enterprise, if you're a Fortune 500, yeah, every 2 years is the pace that things move internally.
Yeah. I mean, although I would argue, yeah, our enterprise should be moving faster. Yeah. I think that there are a lot of barriers to them being able to move that fast. And I'd say one of that is the voluminous amount of data and how siloed it is in various places, that it's very difficult for them to look at things holistically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or change it.
Yeah.
Because the Titanic didn't make a U-turn.
Right. But they should be plotting now where they want to go. And I think a lot of times that's the afterthought from a measurement perspective.
Yeah, I agree heavily. All right. Measure stuff, care about measurements, use the measurements, apply them, because if it's just measured and it's not applied, then why?
Yeah. Well, and think about, going back to strategic patience, think about the short and the long-term measurement plan and like, what are the metrics that contribute to each?
Yeah. This I didn't prepare you for this, so this is just a quick fire question.
Uh-oh.
If there's one metric that you had to just like kick off the plank, what would it be?
Oh, cost per click. There's so many things. There's so many things that go into that I'm like, it can be totally manufactured. It's fake metric.
It's just, you're like, this is the dumbest metric.
I mean, there's so much context that needs to go into explaining what that cost should be that it's just like, no, that's fake news.
Well, and how reliable is it? Like that's the other thing is that not to call any specific vendor out, but there's some DSPs where you're just like, is that really a click that happened?
Yeah.
How are you sure? So there's questions.
Yes.
I love that that's the one that got axed, because I think that it does. I think you're right. It is a poor hill to put your flag on.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that we had time to talk today. If someone wanted to get a hold of you and find out more about you, or to like continue the conversation, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn is the best way. Sarah Renner, you'll find me.
Awesome. And that's RENNER.
Yes.
Perfect. And then if someone wants to find me, I am also chronically online on LinkedIn. I can be reached at info@Markigy, MARKIGY.com. I would greatly appreciate all likes, reviews, and subscribe button clicks. It helps my podcast quite a bit. And yeah, I appreciate the time you spent with me today, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.